A little something and a big nothing. That's what the Atlantic hurricane basin looks like right now, near the peak of hurricane season, as we monitor an invest churning in the Gulf of Mexico and a very mighty Hurricane Larry wandering to the north. Hey there, folks. JB Buno here with you live in your hurricane headquarters. Got a lot of folks joining us on this Wednesday edition of Tracking the Tropics. Great to have Tampa Oy's Heather Melendez there in the top right-hand portion of your screen, as well as from ABC 27 Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Joining us from the northeastern United States, Addis Juklo, meteorologist there for ABC 27. I'm JB Buno. You can use any of the hashtags here on your screen. We're going to get into a meteorologist Q&A. What questions do you have about where we are in the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season? You can use hashtag Hey Addis, hashtag Hey Heather, hashtag Hey JB, or of course, for Tracking the Tropics meteorologist Ian Oliver, hashtag Hey Ian. Hey there, Ian.
JB, good afternoon. We are a grand total of 2 days from the peak of hurricane season, and it is active out there, but thankfully nothing that we're particularly worried about as we move on through the next several days. You mentioned that invest that's out in the northern Gulf of Mexico, essentially an extended trough of low pressure, doesn't have a well-defined center of circulation, so it doesn't quite meet that exact definition of a tropical system, but you do see a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity associated with it. It's got about a 50% chance before it moves on shore sometime late tonight or early on Thursday to develop that low-level center of circulation. So I'll back that up. You can see where we're looking at right here. This is south of Mississippi, Alabama, and the Panhandle, areas that are seeing some of that additional tropical moisture. That's going to lead to some enhanced rain chances as we move through the overnight hours tonight, throughout the day on Thursday, and that'll include for our area too, the Tampa Bay area, with some additional tropical moisture. We'll see some enhanced rain chances moving through the day tomorrow. So again, about a 50-50 shot that meets the definition of a tropical system with a well-defined low-level center of circulation. Regardless, it doesn't matter. If it gets a name, it would be rain with a name. That's all we're expecting with that system is some tropical rainfall moving on shore across the northern part of the Gulf Coast, the Panhandle. Elsewhere, we've got another tropical wave that's forecast to emerge off the western coast of Africa, long range over the next 5 days. That's got about a 20% chance of developing into our next tropical system. So we'll certainly be watching that. Invest 91L, that's the projected path right about here. Brings it up towards the Panhandle, perhaps the western parts of the Big Bend, bringing with it that tropical moisture, and with that, good chunk of rainfall. You can see that with our forecast model. In fact, this is the best way to visualize what we're expecting with this as we move into the overnight hours tonight. This is 11 o'clock tonight. You see some of that heavy rain moving across the Panhandle, moving across the Big Bend, southern parts of Georgia, and then eventually moving up towards the Carolinas. But this tail of tropical moisture, that's what will swing through the Tampa Bay area heading on through the day tomorrow. So this is 8 a.m. We're back in that dreaded onshore flow weather pattern, that west wind off the Gulf of Mexico. You wake up, it's really warm, it's really muggy, and you also have the potential for showers and thunderstorms first thing. When we're in that west wind, we essentially have round-the-clock rain chances, and you can see as we move on through the day tomorrow, some rounds of showers and thunderstorms drifting on through. I think especially during the early part of the day and into the early part of the afternoon, hoping for the kickoff of the NFL season tomorrow. We got the Bucs getting things going against the Cowboys. Still going to be some scattered showers, some spotty thunderstorms, a possibility. Scattered at least, though. It's not an all-day rain that we'll be dealing with as we move on through the game. Of course, what we're watching, the possibility of that development before it makes landfall. Very warm water, but it's dealing, thankfully, with a lot of wind shear. So that's what's inhibiting the system from being able to organize into a well-defined low-level center of circulation, which would classify it as a tropical system. Conversely, we've got Hurricane Larry, which was a major hurricane for several days. This is a behemoth of a hurricane out in the tropical Atlantic with hurricane force winds, I believe, extending out about 70 miles. Tropical storm force winds extending out more than 200 miles. Still, max winds at around 110 miles per hour. So that latest update, you saw that backs off from a 3 down to a 2. It's no longer a major hurricane, but it's still a very powerful system that thankfully will be moving off to the east of Bermuda, kicking up some big swells, some big waves along the east coast of the United States, and also some dangerous rip currents as we move on through the next few days. But thankfully, you can see this forecast path from the National Hurricane Center off to the east of Bermuda, and then eventually heading up into the Canadian Maritimes. Addis, you made a good point with this system. For us along the east coast of the United States, no impacts, thankfully, but the possibility that for the Canadian Maritimes, this could still be pretty impactful.
Yeah, that's right. Larry isn't quite done yet, but in terms of the land that it's going to impact, it's going to be pretty limited to those far eastern Canadian Maritimes. Newfoundland might get a landfalling, at least post-tropical storm. The good news for folks in Bermuda is that the storm is going to pass, looks like well east of the island. So there is a tropical storm warning in effect for Bermuda right now. Of course, this is a pretty sizable storm with hurricane force wind gusts extending well outside of the center. That means tropical storm force wind gusts also extend even further out from the center. So there will be some stronger winds, potentially some of the outer rain bands of Larry affecting Bermuda as we head into first thing tomorrow morning through tomorrow afternoon. But in terms of the worst of the impacts, looks like it's going to stay well to the east. There, of course, will be some quite intense waves that could even push up along the eastern coast of the United States as we head through Friday and even into early Saturday, as we just kind of have a lot of water collecting out in the Atlantic Ocean. So that will be heading toward the U.S. But really, those would be the only impacts. This storm will then curve out to the north and east. A cold front that's actually moving through the northeast today and tomorrow, bringing in some cooler and drier air. That front is going to save the day and pick this thing up and push it off to the north and east. So again, it's possible that Newfoundland gets a direct landfall with potentially destructive wind gusts and some storm surge flooding. But by then, the good news is that it will be faster moving. And then really, once it gets beyond Newfoundland, it races in the direction of the North Pole. And really, I'd say by late Saturday into early Sunday, it is no longer tropical and mainly just a gusty area of low pressure as it, believe it or not, pushes up toward Greenland by then.
Yeah, well said, Addis. We always talk about kind of the nuance of the tropical season. Should point out that Hurricane Larry, actually in terms of ACE, we call it, accumulated cyclone energy, this became the #1 storm in terms of energy created, essentially. ACE is a metric that accounts for intensity and also duration of systems. So the thing with Larry is that it got very powerful and stayed very powerful for several days. It still is a Category 2 hurricane. So this has actually been, over time, a stronger system than Ida. But of course, sadly, Ida was a much more impactful system as it made landfall as a Category 4 storm and brought the storm surge, the destructive winds with it, and all those impacts in terms of that tropical moisture and flooding all the way up into the northeast. So strength and impact in its impact or impactfulness, those can be two very different things. Thankfully, Larry way out in the Atlantic and not causing trouble for anybody outside of some of those impacts that Addis mentioned. In September, these are the areas that we watch. No shock here. There's warm water everywhere. That's why this is the peak of the tropical season. You've got warm water in the Gulf of Mexico, you've got warm water in the tropical Atlantic, northeastern parts of the Caribbean, and also the western part of the main development region. We're looking for these Cabo Verde storms moving across the tropical Atlantic, tropical waves developing in the main development region, and then there's a wide range of prevailing tracks as we move through the heart of the season. This is where we stand now. We've had 3 major hurricanes now, Larry being the latest of the bunch. Grace, of course, Ida, and Larry, the 3 majors. Next name on the list, that would be Mindy. I don't think we're going to see Mindy with 91L in the northern part of the Gulf of Mexico, but stranger things have happened. The possibility, JB, we could see that with that next wave emerging off the west coast of Africa.
The very latest here from Tracking the Tropics meteorologist Ian Oliver here with us. Let's activate on the bottom of your screen here, folks, the meteorologist Q&A here. We've got Addis Juklo joining us from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Of course, Heather Melendez here with us in your hurricane headquarters. Use any of the hashtags here on your screen, and we'll get to your questions and comments. And just like clockwork, you guys, with every episode we've had of late, this is the first question we get. Hashtag HeyJB, what about Florida? Heather, we'll start off here with you. Florida, of course, is always going to be mentioned as far as hurricane season.
That's right, JB. And especially with Invest 91L, I don't think it's going to increase its wind speeds. It's that cold front that Addis was mentioning earlier that's going to track its way south, and it's going to be absorbed. And so it will become a rainmaker. So we can expect heavy rainfall here in Florida late tonight into tomorrow. But as Ian mentioned, by the time it's 5, 6, 7 o'clock, those rains should be ending. If you do live near the Panhandle, the SPC does have you on the marginal side for some thunderstorms, so that's something to watch. But in terms of here in Tampa Bay, I think we're just going to have a rainmaker for the next couple of days.
And I was hoping someone would ask this question here. Dan Evans asking, hashtag HeyJB, any chance of this turning into a tropical storm? And we just saw there at us on that graphic, the chances 50% over the next 48 hours, 50% over the next 5 days. So could this become rain with a name?
It could. The problem is with this storm is that it has limited time over water. The Gulf of Mexico has very warm waters right now, but of course you need to be over those warm waters for an extended period of time to see strengthening. And so this thing has maybe another 6-8 hours, if that, over the Gulf of Mexico before it starts to move inland into northern Florida as we head into later tonight and tomorrow. So at this point, even though the chance is about 50-50, I'd be willing to bet that it will not be a named storm. But either way, impacts aren't going to be all that intense either way, mainly just some showers and thunderstorms for the northern panhandle, and perhaps some of those trailing storms extending down far south as Tampa tomorrow. But overall, this is not going to be a major impact for Florida.
Addis, we're going to come right back to you because Amanda Day just asked this question. Hashtag, hey, Addis, I'm in Pensacola, Florida. Guessing we will just miss the rain today with this tropical system is her question.
Yeah, so it looks like Pensacola is probably going to be impacted later tonight and tomorrow with some of the convection around the storm center. So either way, it just has to do with the fact that the storm hasn't really approached yet. So far, the activity is west of you in Pensacola, but I think as we head later tonight into perhaps first thing tomorrow, you'll start to see some of those outer thunderstorms approaching. But again, if you've lived in Florida for many years, this will just seem like ordinary thunderstorms to you, as there really isn't a whole lot of wind with this system anywhere.
Let's get to our entire team here. We have everybody here on your screen. Use any of the hashtags here on your screen to be part of our meteorologist Q&A. We've got meteorologist Ian Oliver, Tampa Always Heather Melendez, and of course ABC 27 meteorologist Addis Juklo joining us here, everybody, on tracking the tropics. But we'll spend about 10 or so minutes answering your questions here live, and let's get to this one here from Tom in the Facebook Live comment section. Hashtag, hey Ian, we still thinking Halloween time for our first cold front. I'll bring up our two folks here from Tampa to take this one here from Tom.
That is the question right there. I think that's a reasonable time frame. We've had little treats like last year. We had I believe it was last year where October was fantastic, and then we said, scratch that, redo, and we're heading back to summer for November, and November was not great. So yes, sometimes those earlier arriving cold fronts, they come through. They give us that.
Appreciated.
They give us that little treat though, and they don't last. So it can almost be worse.
Yes.
Addis, you have any cold to spare in the next couple of months?
I will do my best. I mean, we're just waiting for 70s up here, so that's going to be nice for us. But to get down to Florida, yeah, it might take until Thanksgiving. We'll see.
Yeah, again, folks, great to have our entire panel here with us to answer some questions. Let's get to. Let's get to this comment here coming in from Vicky here in the Facebook Live comment section. Use any of the comments hashtags on our screen here to ask our team a question. Vicky, hashtag KJB. What about Jacksonville? I'm flying in tomorrow morning. Who wants to, Addis, you want to hop in here on this one?
Sure. Yeah, so Jacksonville, obviously on the eastern side of Florida, you'll probably be one of the last in the state to start to see some of those showers and thunderstorms move on in. But if you're flying in first thing tomorrow morning, I think there will be some showers and storms around. There could be some gusty winds as well. Isn't going to be enough to cause delays? Possibly, but I don't think we're going to see any widespread issues. Again, we see thunderstorms daily in Florida during the summertime, and this isn't really going to be too much different than what we're used to. So yes, there will be some showers and storms around. I'd say if I have to give a time frame, probably between about 5 and maybe as late as 9 a.m. tomorrow over eastern Florida. But is it going to cause flight delays? I'm willing to bet probably nothing too widespread. I think the rest of the panel would probably agree.
I'll bring up Ian and Heather for this one from Bobby Curtis Shehorn. Hashtag, hey, Ian, are we going to have Tropical Storm Mindy in the Gulf of Mexico? And is it going to go towards Pass Christian, Mississippi?
I certainly hope not. And if that were to happen, we would be talking about that next possible wave, the next area of interest, which we talked about 91L. That's not likely going to develop even into a tropical depression before it moves on shore later tonight. It's basically just a cluster of showers and thunderstorms. Right. We get that every single day. We know that. We've had that around for several months now as we've been rolling on through this rainy season, which has been painfully average for a rainy season. We're right on track for a rainfall, the amount that we typically expect to pick up in the rainy season, which has been great because we had that dry start to the year. But the next area to watch hasn't even emerged off the west coast of Africa. It's got that several thousand-mile trek it needs to make across the tropical Atlantic, the Caribbean to even get into the Gulf of Mexico. No indications in the short term that we're going to have another system in the Gulf just yet.
Let's get to this one here from, hold on. We have a great question that just came in here. Again, we'll throw up all the hashtags here on your screen, everybody, to anyone who wants to ask a question, absolutely can do so. Let's get to this one here from Bobby Curtis Shehorn again, and it's, are we in La Nina yet? Hashtag HAB. So who wants to take this one, Addis or Ian or Heather?
We're still in a La Nina pattern. Wouldn't you agree, Addis?
Yeah, we're still in a La Nina, and it looks like La Nina conditions are expected to continue even through the fall and winter. So just kind of glancing at the sea surface temperatures off screen, and we definitely still have that pool of cooler waters over the central and eastern Pacific. And as I said, it does look like that will persist through the winter as well. We still have ways to go, but that will likely be a factor for fall and winter for much of the United States as we go forward here.
For sure, a factor. It's not a particularly dominant La Nina, thankfully, but it's there, and it's something that needs to be considered into the grand scheme of things, for sure.
And let's see here. We got a question that just came in, and it's from, my goodness, trying to get to as many of these comments here as possible here, you guys. Let's get to this one here from Tom Bailey, hashtag Ian. When is the end of hurricane season? It's my favorite day of the year.
It's a great day.
It's our favorite.
There was much rejoicing on that day.
So last year, let's not forget that wasn't really the end of hurricane season, because we still had tropical activity as far as the Atlantic hurricane season, even beyond that date. We had activity in December, Ian.
Right, so we talked about November the 30th, at least on the calendar, being the end of hurricane season.
Right.
Typically, you get to Thanksgiving, get the turkey out, everyone can start to take their guard down a little bit. But yeah, you can get some of those typically weaker, thankfully, late season storms and also preseason storms. But we are 2 days out from the peak of the season. Through September, through October, you really need to still be on high alert. That early part of November, but typically activity starts to throttle back pretty quickly once you start moving on through November.
Let's get to David here, hashtag AJB. When does rainy season come to an end, and any new updates to hurricane season? It really, I mean, this for the first part of David's question, depends on where you are. As far as Pennsylvania goes, Addis, are we even in your rainy season? What's it like up there these days?
Oh,
Yeah, well, actually, we've been in a pretty wet pattern up here the last few weeks. We've been impacted by 3 remnant tropical cyclones. That was Fred, Henri, and Ida, of course, last week. So we had major problems across eastern Pennsylvania, even into parts of central PA. We had some flooding last week from Ida, and it was strange because the first half of the year, starting out much like 2020, it was dry, and then all of a sudden, the rain really picked up. We started to see more numerous showers and storms, and anytime you get these remnant tropical cyclones that come north, those can be pretty big rainmakers. So typically, as we head into late September, October, our weather quiets down quite a bit up here as we kind of wait for the atmosphere to get fired up for winter. But in terms of Florida, I think your guys' main rainy season in terms of thunderstorms, daily showers, that is also probably coming to an end. I'm, of course, not as familiar with Florida climatology as the rest of my friends here on the panel, but I think you guys will agree we're starting to get toward the tail end here.
that's right. Typically, August is the rainiest month of the season here. And once we head into September, October, that's when those fronts will start to push through, and we can really see less rainfall and much drier, less humid weather here in Tampa Bay.
And to the second question here in David's comment, Ian, any new updates to hurricane season? Really, I mean, again, the statistical peak is what, September 10th, if I remember
Yes.
correctly? So
Yep.
we're right there.
Yes. Yep. So we've been trending for an above average season. That was always the forecast. We still have a very active stretch over the next several weeks. So yes, this is going to be another well above average season. We've already had 3 major hurricanes. You saw what the sea surface temperatures in the Gulf are at. You saw some above average temperatures across portions of the tropical Atlantic. We still have a ways to go in this hurricane season. Thankfully, right now we're in a situation where we get a little weak disturbance that's going to bring some extra rainfall. We have a very powerful system out in the Atlantic, but not one that's going to be bringing impact to the continental United States. And we've got a wave that's going to emerge off the coast of Africa. So we'll still be staring at a bunch of disturbances for weeks and weeks to come. But thankfully, in the short term, no big threats.
I missed a couple of questions here that we're going to kind of go rapid fire through here. But again, use any of the hashtags on your screen to ask a question to one of our meteorologists. We'll go pretty quickly here through these. Amber Ross from KRK's Facebook page, hashtag AJB. Is this going to impact Arkansas in any way, Heather?
Amber, it's not going to affect Arkansas. We're looking towards the panhandle where we'll see the bulk of the rain, the more heavy downpours as it's tracked. So typically if it was a storm, hypothetically, it is the right quadrant that will see the bulk of the rain. And that's really what we're seeing, especially once that front pulls on through, it will push off into the eastern part of the coast. So not really going to see a heavy rainmaker out in Arkansas.
Yeah, dry air. We're jealous.
Yeah.
How about this one here for hashtag Hey Addis from Lisa Marie in the Facebook Live comment section. Will I see anything on the eastern shore of Virginia, any flooding?
Yeah, so we're watching that front and watching 91L to see how it interacts with it. It does look like there is going to be somewhat of a merging there, so perhaps a little bit of a tropical moisture influx up through the mid-Atlantic. And of course, these were some of the same places that got some heavier rain last week from Ida. So at this point, I'd say flooding isn't widespread, but as we head throughout today, tonight, and even tomorrow morning, there will be some pockets of heavy rain. Keep in mind, this front is really separating some warmer and more humid air from much cooler and drier air to the north. So that alone will supply us with some showers and thunderstorms. And you get a little bit of a tropical influx there as well. So we're going to have to watch for some heavier showers and storms. Flooding, likely not too widespread. We'll have to keep our guard up for some of these heavier storms, I'd say, through first thing tomorrow morning before we dry out.
Deandra Ward Mendenhall from KRG's Facebook page in Mobile, Alabama. Hashtag, hey, somebody, I'm in Alabama. Will it be okay to go to Mississippi? So not exactly sure who that one was for, but
Everybody,
all hop in. Will it be okay to go to Mississippi as we look here at 91L?
Absolutely.
Yeah, all set. You've had to deal with your fair share of impacts, especially these last two seasons. This is not a system to be worried about in the least for that part of the Gulf Coast.
All set with 91L, all set for us here on Tracking the Tropics here, folks. Really like to thank our entire group here. Joining us here from ABC 27 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, meteorologist Addis Juklo. Tampa Oy's Heather Melendez here with us in your hurricane headquarters, as is Tracking the Tropics meteorologist Ian Oliver and myself. Great to have you here on the program. We're live Wednesdays, 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central on whatever app, website, or social media platform that you're watching on right now. We always take questions from our Facebook Live audience specifically. So if you'd like to ask a question to any of our meteorologists next time, be sure to join us on Facebook Live, and we'll take your question here out of the Facebook Live comment section and bring it to our entire panel of meteorologists. Really like to thank Addis, Heather, and Ian for joining us here, and we'll see you Wednesday, 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central, or if a storm develops, we're also live in the palm of your hand if something is worth us going live for to tell you about. But until the next time here on Tracking the Tropics, for everybody here, I'm JB. See you next time, folks.
Thank you for watching Tracking the Tropics.